Hello, everybody. Okay, we're just going to get started here, and I want to speak to you about, questions that absolutely need answers, and what solutions we might be able to come up with to hold off the injuries and deaths that have been happening in Canada and worldwide in regards to what the governments are imposing on everyone. We're going to try and keep that wording a little bit out of this session today so that we don't get cut off. So anyways, I will share this actually to Facebook so that people there will be able to know that we're here. And there we go. Hopefully I'll be able to do that. And what we've discovered is extremely interesting. And live now. Okay. We're just going to send that off. Okay. Now, I almost forgot to post it to our page. And there we go. We're going to be doing a lot of these here on YouTube so that people will be able to have be able to do the translations in other languages. Because what we have to say is extremely important, and we might have a way out of not just the vaccine passports, but a lot of the vaccinations themselves. Okay, so please stay tuned, and I'll be right with you. Okay, hopefully that worked. Okay, there, we're gonna leave this here. Okay, so I'm not expecting anybody to be here on this live in YouTube that much, but anyways, so some of the exact topic that I want to talk to you about first is about making sure that everybody in Canada, the doctors, the lawyers, the judges, the police, the military, and everyone understands that they too are shareholders, co-owners of the Crown Corporation of Canada. So I'm going to read to you something that I've written because it's a lot easier for me to tell you exactly what my thoughts were on paper. So anyways, our politicians and governments get their authority from the Canadian people. This authority is only on loan for 4 years until the next elections. The Canadian people, Indigenous nations of Canada, have collective rights on each side of the treaty relationship. Furthermore, we do not only have our collective rights derived through common sense, given that we live in a free and democratic society, but also from international law through the removal of colonialism and by legally instilling our collective political and civil rights, which was the basis for the United Nations to be created in the first place after World War II for all countries. So all countries can do what we're doing, which is power shifting to freedom, so that episodes like the last year, almost 2 years now, or well, year and a half for sure, does not happen again. We need to protect our children, the citizens of Canada, our natural resources in this country, and end the nonsense of the Great Reset. So while we're being busy with all of the activities of the lockdowns and everything else, they've been trying to steal everything that we have. It also includes not just our cities, the control over our cities, the control over our country, but also the control over our bodies and our thoughts and everything else. And this is why they're passing a whole bunch of bills. And thank goodness that we have at least another month to regroup and to make sure that even if they're planning on reinstilling the measures in September and whatnot and all kinds of things, because we know they're planning and they're going to try and sidetrack everything we're trying to do. So there's only one solution, and you'll hear about that at the end. But and if you know us, you already know that solution. But in regards to what's happening now, it's important that we ask the right questions. So not only about our Constitution, but about the rights of the politicians, the rights of the public health, okay, and what is expected from our courts in Canada. So the Supreme Court of Canada has also answered, like when we're talking about why we're supposed to be in a democratic society, it's our parliamentarians that have democracy, not us, because we give it to them every 4 years. So we give away our rights, but the thing is Canada never gave us our collective rights within our constitution, and this is what needs to be changed. So I'm going to get to that towards the end, but just to get back to this here. So who rules in Canada? Well, that question was also answered by the Supreme Court of Canada in the cessation of Quebec constitutional challenge judgment rendered the 20th of August, 1998. By international law, also that question's been answered, and that's where we derive our rights from, and every country as well, and all the peoples of the countries. So anyways, by international law, not said in these exact words, but with the same interpretation under collective rights, each person, citizen of Canada, has a one-share vote in the decision-making process in this country as the official owners of the Crown of Canada and its Crown corporations, including our natural resources and everything, along with the Indigenous peoples. Now it's time that as the official shareholders, that we all begin to take our responsibilities seriously, given that the actions of our politicians, governments, and public health are making decisions against the will of the people, and is now a matter of life and or death if we do not fulfill our responsibilities to this country and our people. It is our responsibility. Okay, so this is why, as shareholders, co-owners of the Crown of Canada, we are a collective, and nothing in law supersedes the will of the people. And you are richer and more powerful than you know, so please listen wisely. So as a collective, given the actions of our federal, provincial, and municipal governments, as well as public health, we, the Canadian people, need to ask ourselves these important questions. If we are to take our responsibility to protect our children, this country, our economy, and our future seriously. 1, have medical and scientific professionals, pharmaceuticals, and public health officials, including our governments, looked at what is law and what isn't in Canada before proceeding with the Quarantine and Emergency Measures Acts? 2, have they looked at and discussed the SARS-CoV-2 isolation research documentation? What made them decide that it was okay to destroy lives and a country for the sake of a variant from SARS with a slight difference of speed and infectivity? So now they're also giving us more variants that they're calling variants from SARS-CoV-2, when all of them still come from SARS, and we already have an immunity to it. Okay, so number 4, if this isolation from McMaster's and Sunnybrook research departments are thorough and viable assessment of the virus. So McMaster's University and Sunnybrook Hospital, by March 12th, had actually told us that they had isolated the virus. So is the virus, their isolation, actually a good isolation? And has anybody else looked at it? Because by what I've read and what we can clearly understand now, and with the proof, is that the isolation of the virus indicates that it is a 70% identical to SARS, with a 30% difference, and then that it's not as lethal as SARS, but it spreads quicker. Okay, so why are we in lockdowns? Why are we forced vaccine? They're going towards forced vaccinations, even though they're saying they really, they stopped the measures, because it's the summer and people want to get back to their lives, including themselves. But September, things can turn around. So we need to stop them in their tracks before they keep going. So if the isolation from McMaster's and Sunnybrook research departments, how thorough is it, and how viable of an analysis is it? So we need all of these things checked in double or triplicate or whatever to make sure that we have, a good legal standing. So 5, have the federal, provincial, municipal governments and public health broken the law under the criminal code, and which laws? So that needs to be researched. 6, did the federal and provincial governments have the right to approve the injections and mass order them without precautionary measures when they already knew that the virus could be maintained with existing medications given the isolation of SARS-CoV-2 research documentation prior to implementing the Quarantine Act and emergency measures? So if you look at our letter to David Lametti, everything's specified on there. And yes, they knew in March, before implementing the lockdowns and the measures and everything else, that SARS-CoV-2, again, was 70% identical to SARS, which nothing closed, okay? They had to let it go because it wasn't, it's only dangerous, and SARS-CoV-2 is only dangerous for people who are extremely sick and the vulnerable, which are the elderly. So these people we have to protect. But the rest of the population, there was no reason for the lockdowns. So we need to bring that to the forefront and contest that. And we can only do that by the people rising and through the courts, okay? So everything has to be done at the same time, pretty much. Like, people have to support the court cases and the lawyers, and, you know, as well as expressing your rights, because when September comes around and the Senate goes back, then they're going to be looking at accepting Bill C-36, which takes away, actually, they can blame us for just having a thought. You know, before you go up to make a speech, they can arrest you to say that, hey, we don't like what you're going to say, or we assume you're going to be saying something. And they can arrest you even before they read or they listen to what you're saying, because they want to make sure they stop you before you have time to say anything. So we're, you know, we're in a communist country, people, and that's reality. And then Bill C-10. So right now, Bill C-10 was stopped, at least for the summer, and thank goodness for the senators. Now it's gone to a committee, and then they'll come back in September. So Bill C-10 and C-36 takes away all of our freedom of speech, technically. So number 7, have the federal, provincial, municipal governments and public health broken another law under the Criminal Code of the Genetic Non-Discrimination Act, Section 3, by trying to enforce vaccine passports or proof of vaccination for travel and getting the municipalities, corporations, and businesses to require them within their policies for employment or for accessing their services? Well, we sent out a letter to everybody. Under the privacy laws, the corporations do not have the right to do that. They could be facing up to $1 million in fines and 5 years in jail. Okay, so they're not, they can't force the employees to be vaccinated, and they can't demand it on the people. However, right now, the provincial governments are saying to the people, well, just do it on your, you know, just add it to your policy and just say it's private property. No, any businesses that are actually open for business for clients and have a service are actually, how can I say, are they're giving a service to the public. So they are actually in service to the public. So yes, they have to follow and respect our human rights. They can't just say, well, you're on private property here. If they have a business, and the thing is and that business, they only have their employees, no clients come inside the building or anything like that, that's another story. And then the employees who go to work there will have to, you know, deal with that, and possibly can still force the issue of human rights in regards to forced vaccinations or whatever. So, but again, it takes the courts to decide this. So because these things have never been challenged before, there's no real precedent. So we have to create precedents. So, and the judges, how can I say, as long as we don't contest something in court, they get away with it. So the whole thing here is about contesting legally what they are doing. Okay. So in question number 8, have the federal, provincial, and municipal governments and public health broken privacy laws instilled to protect our personal information? Well, I had just answered that question. Now, 9, have the federal, provincial, and municipal governments and public health broken their own codes of ethics? Yes, they have. Now, have the federal, provincial, municipal governments and public health deliberately ignored to get our informed consent, the PCR tests and mRNA injections? Have you signed a document? Did they tell you exactly what these injections do, other than saying, oh, they're safe? Where's the proof? Did they tell you what you might be suffering if you go ahead with taking the injections, the side effects and everything else? Now we're finding out too late, because the governments themselves have created a huge fraud by telling everybody that these injections were safe or not safe. So it's up to us to protect the Canadian people, our family, our friends, and this country. And this is why I'm trying to talk to you right now, because without each and every one of you taking your responsibility as a Canadian citizen, we will never win this thing. We will lose. So it's really important that everybody gets together. So 11, most of all, have they perpetrated a criminal malfeasance by utilizing a lie to create misinformation regarding SARS-CoV-2 virus in order to place Canadians in fear, so that they could trample all over our human rights, political and civil rights, as well as the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Well, yeah, they have. We just need to prove it. And we have that proof, we just need to get to court. So have the federal, provincial, municipal governments and public health participated in all of the above questions to change our laws that also protect us from genetic manipulation and discrimination, to take part in the NIH and Genome Canada transhumanist agenda, to acquire an international biodata bank of our DNA without our informed consent through the improper use of the RT-PCR test, to further subject us as trial subjects to the mRNA injections for their new future economy, as well as our country and cities to fulfill their Great Reset agenda of a world government by public-private partnership corporations and the World Economic Forum against the entirety of the world population's will. This is a big one, people. So I'll repeat it. Have the federal, provincial, municipal governments and public health participated in all of the above questions to change our laws that also protect us from genetic manipulation and discrimination, to take part in the NIH and Genome Canada transhumanist agenda, to acquire an international biodata bank of our DNA without our informed consent through the improper use of the RT-PCR tests, to further subject us as trial subjects to the mRNA injections for their new future economy, as well as taking over our country and cities to fulfill their Great Reset agenda of a world government by public-private partnerships, corporations, and the World Economic Forum against the entirety of the world population's will. That's a big yes. Now for the real question. You know, since we already know that the answers to the 12 previous ones is, what will we, the Canadian people, and the rest of the people worldwide do about it? So what do we do about this? There's only one solution, and that is that the people must rise lawfully and legally in each country. If you're not ready, then you better get ready. And we need to remain and do everything legally. You know, and we don't need to create any civil wars here or hate speeches, or, you know, the people who were vaccinated or who gladly got vaccinated could be in a serious trouble. We need to stand with them, vaccinated, unvaccinated. We need to stand together. We need to stop the government in its track, and let them know that, hey, we are the ones in power here, not you. And, you cannot play with our lives like this. So, it's going to be very, very important that we stand up and know what we're arguing about and know what's involved here. So we can say that there's a lot of things that, we can argue many points, but the points that we need to remain on is not everything that's out there, but we need to be able to be smart, really pick the points that we're sure to win on, that we can actually prove, and then make the debate about that, and not bring everything under the sun within it, because they've done so much that if we bring everything under the sun, it'll be too confusing. And we just need to get to the bottom of this, which is taking back our power. So time has run out. So before more people die by forced injections based on a virus that normally we would have considered a normal cold and flu season occurrence, which is not much difference from all of the SARS variants with pre-existing medications. If you are ready, please join us and become a member of the Canadian People's Union and our Power Shift to Freedom solution, so that we can take the legal action as a collective majority at the powershift.ca. So for a while, we just allowed, we invited people to join our website at the powershift.ca to sign up and get newsletters and all that. But we've been so busy because we were not supposed to be taking care of our thing was about giving the people their rights, putting ourselves on our constitution as the official shareholders in charge of this country, and so that the government can finally be who they truly are, which is public servants and not dictators, the way that they've turned things around. So we're busy with research. We have there is a precedent that we can use. The prime minister and the premiers and everybody involved do not have immunity from prosecution. They might say they do, but no, they don't. We just need to go and prove it in court. Okay. And there's another country that the judges already know this. And I'm sure that by the time we hit the courts, that our judges will also know the truth there and will be able to prosecute accordingly. So because of all the lies that the Canadian government has done over time, and some of the judges and the lawyers, in cahoots with the corporations to steal our natural resources, to force us to pay taxes instead of getting dividends for our natural resources, they're giving it away to their friends for peanuts, and their friends are all getting rich, and we get poorer, and then we get stuck into this kind of scenario. So in order to avoid that, we can change things. So right now we need to focus on getting as many members into the CPU, the Canadian People's Union, so that we show that we have a strong standing in court in regards to showing them that, yes, the people who are members do not have to go to court, and you're not responsible for anything. We fixed it that way. But at least we can show that, yes, we have a huge following. We have members that we want to be able to protect. And that's what the Canadian People's Union is supposed to do as a corporation, to go under our civil, political, and civil rights, so that we can do something about this. Because if we go on this on our own, we're only seen in court as, you can only speak about yourself individually. What we're doing is speaking for not for everyone, but we're bringing this about under the Canadian People's Union, so that we can say, hey, we've got so many people here, and this is what you're doing, and you don't have the right to do that, so that we can stop what's going on now, and then proceed in getting our rights, because we do have the right to be in our constitution. We do. There are some loopholes there where some of the lawyers have had to admit that, yes, I'm right. But we just need to get ourselves there. But we need decent lawyers that are not afraid of being ostracized or, being punished by the government or their clients. So we're looking for lawyers that, unfortunately, we wasted time with lawyers for 3 months. And but during this time, we were able to get precedents where we can now, yes, go after malfeasance, criminal malfeasance. But to begin with, because in Canada, you need the attorney generals, either of a province or David Lamette's office as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada to file charges. So without their okay about proceeding with charges, they will never get charged. But there's other ways of doing this. We have the solutions at the Canadian People's Union. We just need to implement them, but we can't do it alone. We don't have the finances to do it alone. We don't have everything that we get. The donations that people have given us have gotten us to this point. And that's how we survive. Nobody takes a salary. Everything goes in advancing the freedom of the Canadian people and Indigenous nations so that we can rule together, okay, on each side of the treaty relationship and really make this country work for the people and stop this insanity once and for all. So now I'm going to let you go and I'll be right back, and I'm going to do this in French. So this is just what we want to say was there's a lot of questions that need answered. We have those answers. And if you like what you hear, you want to save your country, your children, and your future, please join us at the Canadian People's Union. You can join for either $10 a month for 12 months or $120 for the year. And that helps us being able to keep going, to be able to, get us out of this mess, because nobody else will. And you can't wait for a savior, because every time you're looking for a savior, look at yourself in the mirror. We need everybody as much as possible to be on board with this. It is the will of the people that gave us, okay, laws that we can come back and use against the government if they proceed with this. If they don't proceed, then okay. But if they proceed with doing, their agenda and trying to enforce forced vaccinations on the people without having the real truth behind it, if this was a real deadly virus, okay, fine. If millions of people died, fine, but that's not so. So this is far from being a pandemic. It's a coup d'etat. It's a coup d'etat that they've been doing. They're transferring us to transhumanism and taking away, what better way to take away your human rights by injecting something in you eventually and under false pretenses, and then say, hey, guess what? You no longer qualify as a human being. You're now a transhuman. I kept wondering, why are they, why all of this, when I was watching Jordan Peterson and what he was going through, and with that, the terminology that, like in Ontario, we're not allowed to say he or she, or now it's they, it's ridiculous. So now we're not supposed to call people by who they are, male or female. Because, it's their choice to decide who they are. So you have no right to say that, because we can take you to court now. So, which is totally ridiculous. But, they really promoted the transgendered and all of this, and allowing kids to make decisions to become transgendered without the parents' consent. And the government is supporting that. So why were they, as long as, when you look, hindsight is 2020, right? So when you look back and you see what's coming, and then you look back, and then you can see why they use the transgendered people to get this notion out, so that now they can call us eventually, soon enough, transhumans. So we'll become transhumans, people, not human beings anymore, but transhumans, because we will have been genetically modified. Now they're saying that, what they're doing now with the mRNA is not genetically modifying you. You don't become a GMO. But this is where they're leading this with transhumanism. The government wants to be able to control your mind. They're making all kinds of grand things, we can make you smarter, we can do this and we can do that, and look how wonderful life could be. That's transhumanism. You're no longer a human being. Therefore, you no longer have the rights, because everything in you will be owned by somebody else's patent. So we're in the era of stupidity. I feel like I live in the twilight zone. But if you do not read all this stuff, and you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and do a series on transhumanism this week and show you all of what the Canadian government with Genome Canada and the NIH have done to be able to get a hold of all of our DNA worldwide. And what better way than falsify it and get it by claiming a pandemic and then getting our, everybody tested through the PCR test and getting a sample of your DNA, because they cannot find a virus infection at more than 25 thresholds, CT thresholds for the PCR test. So they've admitted that they've done them at higher rates, and that, people, is for identifying our DNA strands. Okay. So as crazy as that is, it's what's happening, and we'll be able to prove it to you. So please join the Canadian People's Union at thepowershift.ca, all one word, thepowershift.ca. And hope to see you there. And then this week on this channel, we'll be doing a transhumanist series about what they're doing and what the solutions are that we're working on, because we did find something over the weekend, not just with the Genetic Non-Discrimination Act and what the government has been doing with that, and that, yeah, it's against our privacy issues, but even something that might be able to bring us an injunction as soon as possible to stop the injections. Okay, so stay with us, and please, we can use your support. Anything you can do, let us know at thepowershift.ca. Thank you. Okay, so how do I shut this off? Okay. Just trying to get out of here. 1 second. And I'm going to come back in French. Okay, so we'll be right back. Bye-bye.